This gorge is nature's perfect killing ground. Here, Han Xin's 30,000 exhausted men must face Chen Yu's 200,000 Zhao soldiers. Every rule of warfare condemns their position. Narrow terrain prevents tactics. Cliffs block escape. The frozen river seals their fate. But Han Xin watches his soldiers' white-knuckled grip on their spears and sees not paralysis, but potential. Fear can destroy an army, or forge it into something unstoppable. When his officers quote ancient texts warning against river-backed positions, Han Xin's voice cuts colder than the wind. Those rules were written for ordinary wars. We fight for survival. He gestures to the icy flow. That river isn't water. It's the wall that will make our men fight harder than any Zhao soldier. They'll win because they must. This is no desperate gamble, but a surgical strike against the instinct to flee. The command tent erupts in chaos. Han Xin's generals, battle-hardened men who have faced Qin armies across a dozen battlefields, are now staring at their commander as if he has gone mad. You would trap us against the river? It is suicide, argues his cavalry commander. The art of war explicitly warns against this. Another officer gestures toward the Zhao positions, his voice tight with fear. We are outnumbered 7-1. Our only advantage should be a clear line of retreat. But Han Xin possesses a deeper understanding of strategy than simple textbook rules. He knows that Sun Tzu's true lesson is about psychology, not just topography. You speak of the art of war, he counters, his voice low and steady. But do you understand its heart? An army with no escape route cannot afford fear. It can only afford victory. He reveals his full plan. This desperate position is not their end, but the bait for a trap that will seal the Zhao army's fate. The argument is not just about tactics. It is about the will to win. Han Xin is not merely positioning troops. He is forging a new kind of army. As the debate fades into the cold night, the resolve hardens. By the time the officers emerge from the tent, doubt has been replaced by a grim, unified purpose. They will follow their general into the river's embrace and into history. As first light touches the ice, Han Xin executes his dangerous plan. 30,000 Han soldiers form battle lines with the frozen river at their backs, a position every military text calls suicide. But this is precisely his design. Remember, he tells his men, the river isn't behind you. It's protecting your backs. The Zhao can only come from one direction now. Each soldier knows retreat means certain death in the frozen waters. Advance means facing overwhelming odds. There is only one path, forward. From his command post, Zhao General Chen Yu watches in triumphant disbelief. He has trapped himself, he exclaims to his officers. This so-called genius has made his final mistake. He commits his entire army to crush the Han forces, seeing no need for complex tactics against what appears to be pure madness. But hidden in the early morning mist, Han Xin's elite cavalry slips away on a mission that will decide the battle. While the Zhao focus on the trapped Han army, Han Xin's real strategy unfolds. 2,000 cavalry disappear into the landscape, carrying Han banners but ordered to remain hidden until the perfect moment. Their mission: wait for the Zhao camp to empty, then strike from within. It's a breathtaking risk. The main force must hold against overwhelming numbers long enough for the flanking move to work. The Zhao assault begins with the force of a tidal wave. But against all expectations, the Han lines hold. With the frozen river at their backs, every soldier understands the stakes. Retreat means death in icy waters. Advance means certain slaughter. So they stand firm, fighting with the desperate courage of men who have no other choice. The very position that seemed like madness becomes their greatest strength. As the battle rages, something remarkable happens. The trapped Han soldiers begin advancing, not in a wild, desperate charge, but with methodical, relentless pressure. They're not just defending anymore. They're attacking an enemy that outnumbers them 7-1. The psychological gambit works exactly as Han Xin predicted. Soldiers with no escape fight with supernatural resolve. At the critical moment, Han Xin's hidden cavalry strikes. They storm the nearly empty Zhao camp, planting Han banners where Zhao colors once flew. The sight of their burning headquarters spreads panic through the Zhao ranks. In minutes, the battle turns completely. The Zhao army, confident of victory moments earlier, now finds itself trapped between Han Xin's relentless advance and the terrifying sight of their own camp in flames. Morale shatters. The overwhelming numbers that seemed certain to bring victory now become a liability as panic spreads through packed ranks. In one of history's most stunning reversals, the battle turns from certain defeat into overwhelming victory. The Zhao army, which outnumbered Han Xin's forces 7-1, completely disintegrates. Their general is captured, their camp destroyed, their morale shattered. The very river that should have meant the Han army's doom becomes the symbol of their legendary triumph. Han Xin's gamble has rewritten the rules of warfare. When his officers crowd around him in celebration, Han Xin explains the deeper wisdom behind his apparent madness. "You placed them in death grounds so they lived," one officer marvels. Han Xin nods. A common soldier fights best when he has no choice but to fight. "I didn't trap our army. I liberated it from the temptation of retreat." The lesson would be studied for centuries. Sometimes victory requires burning your bridges, or in this case, embracing the river at your back. The Battle of Jingxing would become one of the most famous in Chinese history, a perfect demonstration of Sun Tzu's principle of putting soldiers in death ground where they must fight to survive. For 2,000 years, military strategists would study Han Xin's brilliant manipulation of human psychology and tactical positioning. 2,000 years later, Han Xin's lesson echoes wherever humans face impossible odds. The river at your back appears in different forms. The entrepreneur burning through savings with no plan B, the scientist staking reputation on a radical theory, the artist destroying early works to force innovation. The principle remains unchanged. True breakthrough often requires eliminating retreat as an option. Modern psychology confirms what Han Xin demonstrated on that frozen riverbank. When escape routes disappear, humans access extraordinary reserves of creativity and determination. This isn't just about desperation, it's about focus. With no energy wasted on planning retreats, all effort channels into breakthrough. The student pulling an all-nighter before exams, the team committing to an impossible deadline, they all understand the power of having no fallback. The legacy of fighting with a river at your back transcends culture and era. It's the universal truth that comfort rarely breeds greatness, and safety nets often become ceilings. The story endures not as ancient history, but as a mirror asking each generation, where have you been too cautious? What rivers do you need at your back? What greatness might you achieve if retreat wasn't an option? So let the frozen river remind us. Sometimes the safest path is the most dangerous one. Sometimes the wisest choice appears as madness. And sometimes victory comes not from having options, but from choosing your course so completely that every other possibility dissolves like ice in spring. The river still flows, the choice remains, and the lesson echoes through time. Embrace your river and fight.